So hello folks, I'm back for another announcement. I meant to do these every week and I just have not been able to keep up with it this term. I'm sorry. I've been sick this week too, so that's not helped. So anyway, I've graded your first essays, and so everything I received has received a grade at this point. I haven't posted it yet, but I'll do it right after I post this announcement. Essays are the only assignment in the course that you can revise and get a higher grade on potentially. But you have to do it in a particular way. So I want to show you where those materials are, where that instruction, and kind of just tell you what I expect for that. So I'm going to share my screen here with you and go to your course. And there we go. So here we are in your course at the top. And now I'm going to scroll down. Let me do it as a student just to make sure everything's where it ought to be. All right, so here we are. Where you want to go is Professor Downs' alternate readings and resources. And when you click into that, revision and editing resources are here. You can see that there are other things here too that you might want to use later. Revision and editing is here, and the assignment instructions are the first thing. So what you're doing is, wow, that's really small. Let me see if I can make that bigger. All right, so here we go. Maybe that's not any better, I don't know. You need to have all of these things on your revised essay when you turn it in. So a statement of what you like about your project, what you want to make sure you keep, a statement of where you think it fell short and the things you want to change, evidence of 2 different revision strategies drawn from the list of approved resources, which are in this folder. I'll show you in just a second. There's a lot of different things you can try and things you can play with. And you are doing those different kinds of things. One of them is called the Frankenstein method, for instance, where you print out your paper, you cut it apart, and you play around with the order and write and see if that is helpful. It's probably better for like a research paper later, but that's an example of what I mean by a structured revision strategy. And then you are using track changes in in your Word or Google Doc to comment on the things that you change as a result of these strategies you're using. So you're doing all of that, and I need to be able to see the tracked changes, so the comments that you make. So you're not just tracking changes and, I see you put a comment here or something. I want a comment telling me what you did. And then you need a revision reflection, talking about your experience with revision. What tools did you use? How did they help you? What did you change or add or cut or restructure? If you used any kind of an AI to help you, then talk about what you got from that as well. And then submit all of this in one document. If you need to make sure that you don't download your file as a PDF for this. Download it as a Word document and then take a look at it. And if it does not have like you cannot see the comments, then go back into your document and take screenshots that are legible where I can see your paper and the comments on it. And you can just attach those screenshots as files. You can attach as many as you need to be able to show me all your comments. Make more than 2 or 3 comments if you want me to seriously consider changing the grade and all of that. So that's something that you can do. If you have any questions about it, then please reach out to me and I will be happy to talk to you and walk you through all this. So the second thing here, I'll get out of this again for right now. I just posted starfish reports as well because this was the last day to do them. So I was trying to get through your essays really fast to do that. Most of you are doing fine. You have kudos, keep up the good work and things like that. If I was worried about things like if you didn't turn in an essay or if you're, seemed like you were struggling on the essay itself, I did make tutoring referrals for some people. If I didn't make a tutoring referral for you, but you want to do that as part of revision, I encourage you to do it because you get extra credit for it. You might as well. It's not just going to tutoring and kind of showing up and sitting quietly for 20 minutes and going away. It's also writing up what you did, and I need to be able to verify, when and where you went. You can use the tutors at your school. You can use tutors. Gateway has tutors that you can interact with online and talk kind of in a space like where I am right now recording this. So that's that stuff. And now I want to talk about what's coming up in the next module because it's my favorite thing in the course, literacy narratives. So I'm really fascinated with how people develop literacy, the relationship they have with reading and writing. Thinking about that now when you're starting a college career, I think is really crucial because it helps you see maybe some things that you'd never realized were, a lot of times things that happened to us in the past are still, they have echoes in the present. And so our actions are being kind of directed or shaped by the things that happened. And if we're not mindful and aware of them, then we don't have any control over that shaping. And so, if you are a perfectionist and you break out into a cold sweat every time you have to write an essay, there's probably a story about that explains like how you are that way. And so that's what we're getting into here with literacy narratives. What I will tell you, and I will actually share my stuff again here. Let me get out of that. And I'll share this again. I have let me tell you what's in the course first. So in the course, there is a reading about literacy narratives. It's not terrible. There's a video where someone kind of has done a literacy narrative as a video, and she talks about her elementary school and having books and faith, culture, and family. And the video is terrible. I don't have any other way to say it. My colleagues don't all agree with me, but I used it in my class as an example of what not to do because she's talking about her whole life and different sort of things, and she just tells us that stuff happened. We don't have any story here. We don't have any reflection on how that has shaped her really. She just tells us that it has. And so that's not really a successful narrative, in my opinion. So now you know what I'm looking for. So I have something way better in my stuff. So let me show you where that is. Go back here to content. And yeah, so here we are on my alternate readings and resources again. I have literacy narrative resources too, and it's right at the top thing. So click on that. The one that I'm going to point you to most strongly is the first one, College Writing and Storytelling by Bernice Olivas. As soon as I can get that swapped into the course, now that I'm course manager, I will do that. But in the meantime, I think that comparing what you have in the course to what's here is instructive. So I'm happy to leave it for now. Bernice Olivas talks about narrative and about literacy, and she sort of demonstrates a way to get from vague ideas or no idea to an essay that's going to be the scope that you're going to need. They're called literacy profiles, and I encourage you to write as many of those as you can think of and see what you have the most to say about and most to reflect about, and then make that be the focus of your essay. So those are great for inventing material. It's not really pre-writing. I think I've said before in your course that I don't believe pre-writing is a really good word for it. Invention is figuring out what you have to say and what's inside you, and discovering that and discovering connections and between your ideas and reflecting on them and things like that. So a literacy narrative needs several things. It needs a narrative, which means it's a story. It has characters, it has emotional content, it has description and detail, which is something you're going to be doing here in this over the next week. It has, what else? The big thing that has is there's probably some kind of a conflict, or there's some kind of a thing that is overcome. And so that's what you have first of all, but it's not just a story. It's a story that is kind of a turning point where you were one way before this event happened and you're a different way now. And so what changed? And that's what you're reflecting on. So it's a story of a significant event in your past that has to do with your relationship between reading, relationship with reading and writing, and that kind of maybe explains how you are now, and you're telling the story and reflecting on it. So this is not a 5-paragraph essay like the thing that you just did, even though some of you did kind of narrative elements in the illustration essay. This is an introduction that gets us into the idea of the thing that you want to reflect on, and you're going to use You're not going to have a thesis at the end of that first paragraph that tells us this is going to talk about X. My paper is going to, prove something. You're going to, but it's going to give us some preview that there's a story coming here that will have a point. And then from there, you will go on into your story. And then from there at the end and the conclusion, you will reflect on what that means and how it has affected you and maybe continues to affect you. So those things need to be there. The other things that are in this folder that there's some, this I believe is something that I use in my class. It's a journal activity where you read some statements and you choose the one that you believe in is true most strongly and the one that you believe is really not true most strongly, and reflect on why you hold those beliefs. And beliefs are something that will sort of shape how you behave in the world. And so if you can find a story for when you learned or when you first began to believe that, then maybe that's becomes the focus of your essay. The essay needs to be fairly focused and not, maybe your 8th grade year was really, a turning point for you in the sense of being good in school. Maybe you had a teacher and you had a relationship, but try to get it to a focus that's, not more than a couple or 3 specific events, so that because you only have three to 4 pages here to work with, so you're not telling me your entire life story. And if you try to do too much of a span of time, then you end up just barely skimming the surface. And one of the things that we hope that you begin to learn in college as a habit of mind is going deeper than just kind of surface level, skimming kind of thing. So that's if you focus it more, then you can also get the sensory detail and the emotional content, and it'll be much more successful. The other thing I'll point you to here is excerpts from Bird by Bird, which is a book by Anne Lamott. And Anne Lamott talks about some things that maybe when you read it, you see a reflection of yourself and how you approach things, and maybe you can use some of that material to help you reflect on the way you are now. She talks about perfectionism, for instance, and perfectionism is one of those things that affects you very strongly as a writer. And there's usually a story about how you became a perfectionist. And I hope that you realize that it's something that you need to let go now because it's not serving you very well. So there's that. The last thing here is just there are 2 lessons due this week instead of the normal one. One of them is just a quiz on literacy narratives, and the other is a discussion board, but it's sharing your work on an assignment where you're working on trying to give more sensory detail about something. So you have the assignment there. It doesn't have to be as long as the normal discussion board post kind of thing. You're just taking those sentences and adding rich sensory detail. And then, so half of the grade is doing that. And then the other half is responding to classmates and pointing out what they did well and what, maybe giving them some more things that they could think about adding for this kind of thing. And hopefully this is helpful then for you when you get to the end of this module and are writing the literacy narrative itself. So that's what I have for you right now. Let me know if you have any questions. I really enjoyed reading these essays and going through them and getting to know y'all a little bit better. So anyway, thanks.